Welcome back to a new exercise. A dog is walking at 1 meter per second when a squirrel passes by, making the dog accelerate at 0.5 meters per second square. Find the dog's speed and distance after 4 seconds. So we find here that the information that is given in the problem includes the initial velocity of the dog. So we could write this. We have what we usually call V0, the initial velocity. We have the acceleration. So let's annotate that. We have the value of the acceleration. And we have the time. We are being asked about two quantities. We are being asked to find the velocity after 4 seconds and the distance that the dog will run on those 4 seconds. As you might know by now, there are three main formulas to be used in problems of accelerated motion. So if I can just to remind you, one formula is that the position this looks very similar to the uniform motion. So it's initial position plus initial velocity times t, plus now we have an extra term. It's 1/2 of acceleration times the square of the time. So this is a new part compared to what we had before. This is one formula. Another one is the one that tells us the velocity after some time, and is given by V0 plus acceleration times time. Finally, we have another formula that relates the initial velocity with the final velocity, and this involves the squares. So the final velocity square is given by the initial velocity square plus 2 times the acceleration times the distance. So these are the three formulas that we are going to be using every time there is a problem with acceleration. And one thing that I would like to remind you, or make it part of the recipe that I use, is that it is important to know how to use each of these formulas depending on the problem you're trying to solve. So one thing that I have in my personal recipe is to notice the fact that this last formula here, so the third one down here, this one, does not involve time. So here we have no time. So if you have a problem in which there is no mention of time at all, it is very likely that this is a formula you need. Okay, let's look at the problem we're trying to solve here. So the dog is walking at 1 meter per second. We know the acceleration, and we're asked to find the velocity and the distance after 4 seconds. So since time is involved, we know we have to use the other two. In order to find the velocity, we simply use the second formula here. So V is V0 plus A times T. So V0 is 1 meter per second. That was the speed before the acceleration happens, before the squirrel showed up. The acceleration is 0.5 meters second square. Units here are very important, don't forget that. And the time is 4 seconds. So here we simplify a few things. This is 1 meter per second plus 0.5 times 4, that is just 2. And notice that one of these square will cancel this second. So this second here will cancel the square, and we have just meters per second. And we can do this directly. We don't need the calculator. This is just 3 meters per second. So this is the speed of the dog after 4 seconds with that acceleration. So it's as simple as that. That is the formula we have to use. The other question is find the distance. So how much distance will this dog cover in that time? So for that we use the other formula, the first one from the list on this little cloud on the left. So x0, I will just write it again, x0 plus v0t plus 1/2 a times t squared. The initial position, we can set it to 0, so we don't need to worry about that. The initial velocity we know is 1 meter per second times the time, that is 4 seconds, plus 1/2 times the acceleration, which is 0.5 meters per second square, times the time again, that is 4 seconds, everything here squared. Again, we don't need the calculator here. This is 1 times 4, that is just 4. We have seconds times meters per second. This is just meters. Plus, we have 0.5 times 0.5. We have seconds squared divided by seconds squared, so this will cancel with this. And we get this 4 squared is just 16. This also will have units of meters. So we can plug this in the calculator or just do the math. This is 4 meters plus 0.5 times 0.5 times 16 is just 4. So this is 4 plus 4, this is just 8 meters. And that's it. That is the distance that the dog covered by increasing its speed in those 4 seconds using that acceleration. In the upcoming exercises, I will be using these 3 formulas so we can get more familiarized with them. So make sure that you don't miss those.